Imagine a high-stakes showdown where the underdog takes on a giant. That's the scene as the Ukraine conflict unfolds, a real-world test of Russia's newest and supposedly most formidable weapons. Experts once feared these advanced armaments would be Ukraine's undoing, expecting them to easily overpower the lesser-equipped Ukrainian forces. But here's where the plot twists. Ukraine isn't the same player it was back in 2014 and 15. It's leveled up thanks to Western weapons and military training, shaking off its old Soviet-era playbook. Meanwhile, Russia's showcase of high-tech weaponry turns out it's even more smoke and mirrors than fire and fury, with many of these new tools either underperforming or not showing up at all. This begs the question, were the skeptics right all along about Russia's overhyped military machine? And when it comes down to it, how does Russia's best gear measure up against the powerhouse arsenal of the United States? Get ready as our military experts dive into the heart of this modern David versus Goliath story. The Russian military has suffered many embarrassments in Ukraine, but the biggest humiliation is the decimation of its tank force. As of the end of February 2024, Russia has lost a visually confirmed 2,758 tanks. Curiously, or not so curiously, the T-14 Armata is not one of them. No T-14 has ever been sent to Ukraine. In contrast, Ukraine has now begun to field the 31 M1A1 Abrams tanks the United States has given it. Although the possibility of the Armata and the Abrams encountering each other on the Ukrainian battlefield seems low, the presence of the American tank raises an interesting question about what would happen if the two tanks did collide. The M1 Abrams has been in service since 1980. The most modern version, the M1A2, has a top speed of 42 miles per hour and a range of 256 miles. Its main weapon is a 120mm XM256 smoothbore gun. The secondary weapons are an M2 Browning 50 caliber machine gun and an M240 7.62mm coaxial machine gun. The main gun can fire a plethora of rounds, including the M829 APF SDST, armor-piercing fin-stabilized discarding sabot, and the M830 Heat MPT, high-explosive anti-tank multi-purpose tracer. The latest and greatest Abrams tank, the M1A2 SEPV3, also fires a new round which can destroy fortifications like bunkers or be set to burst in the air to take out enemy anti-tank guided missile teams 2 kilometers away. The Abrams main gun has a range of about 2.5 miles depending on the round. The Abrams tank has some of the best armor in the world. It's protected with explosive reactive armor that's designed to counteract shaped charges on anti-tank missiles, as well as a layer of depleted uranium. In 2023, the Army began outfitting Abrams tanks with an active protection system called Trophy. This system includes radar antennas that detect incoming anti-tank rockets or missiles. Once detected, Trophy launches interceptors. Fielding it has proven to be a challenge, however. The Abrams also has the benefit of protecting its crew by keeping the ammunition magazine separate from their compartment. M250 grenade launchers can fire smoke grenades to conceal the tank from incoming fire, adding another layer of protection. The Abrams' weight has increased over the years. It began with a weight of 60 tons, but the latest version weighs 73.6 tons because of various improvements added to the tank in the form of its depleted uranium armor, 120mm gun, remote-controlled machine guns, and more. The weight has become concerning enough that the Pentagon has started to worry about it. Defense Department officials fear that the increased weight makes the Abrams difficult to transport to the battlefield and recover if it's damaged. The T-14 Armata, meanwhile, should be a significant improvement over Russia's traditional tanks. Unlike them, it has a protective crew capsule that separates the crew from the magazine, limiting the potential for the catastrophic explosions that have been common in Ukraine. The Armata's armor is a composite modular system made of steel, ceramics, and other materials. The forward part of the tank is covered with explosive reactive armor to defend against anti-tank weapons. The tank's rear comes with bar armor to better protect it against low-level anti-tank weapons like RPGs. The Armata also has an active protection system that defends against incoming anti-tank weapons and has smoke grenade launchers. Additional active and passive armor can be attached to the tank. The tank's silhouetted low design also provides an added measure of protection. The tank weighs about 55 tons thanks to its supposedly more efficient armor. Its engineers supposedly relied on active and passive protection systems to save weight. The T-14's main weapon is a 125mm 2A821M smoothbore gun. In addition to the traditional rounds, the T-14 can also supposedly fire reflex anti-tank missiles from its main gun to a range of 3.1 miles. A new weapon, the 3U BK-21 Sprinter anti-tank missile with a range of 7 miles, was also planned for the Armata, although it had not yet entered service as of 2021. The secondary armaments are the 12.7mm Cord machine gun and a 7.62mm Pencheng PKP or a PKTM machine gun. A second 7.62mm machine gun is mounted on a remote weapon station on the top rear of the turret. The tank has a top speed of between 50 and 55 miles per hour and a range of about 310 miles. On paper, these are all formidable attributes, and indeed, before the war in Ukraine, many Western security experts feared that the T-14 Armata would prove superior to any of the tanks in NATO's arsenal. But there is a problem: Russia can't field it. To date, Russia has only built about 20 prototypes. Serial production was supposed to begin in 2021, but it's now 3 years later and that still hasn't happened. Because of the problems with the T-14's unconventional engine, the A85-3, the obstacles to serial production remain significant. But what would happen if the Armata and the Abrams actually came to blows? The Armata's ability to fire anti-tank missiles make it a formidable threat if the system works as advertised. However, this is where the Abrams' heavy frame can give it an advantage. Although the Armata's armor may have efficiency improvements, there is nothing yet capable of substituting the heavy armor the Abrams carries, which should make it more survivable in a confrontation between the two. On paper, the Armata's features seem more impressive overall, especially with its added range, but until the newest Russian tank can actually arrive on the battlefield and demonstrate its attributes reliably, we will not know the answer. The war in Ukraine has given us reason to doubt Russia's paper claims, and the Kremlin's refusal to deploy the Armata in combat suggests that it isn't as confident about its newest tank as it seemed on the parade grounds. In the skies, Russia's best plane is the 5th generation Su-57 Felon. This plane was designed to be an answer to the F-22 Raptor. But how does it compare to the Raptor and the other 5th generation plane in the American Air Fleet, the F-35 Lightning II? The Su-57 Felon is powered by two Saturn AL-41F1 turbofan engines that generate 35,000 pounds of force. It can reach supersonic speeds without relying on its afterburners, can climb at a rate of 64,000 feet per minute, and has a service ceiling of about 66,000 feet. Aviation experts think it has a range of 750 miles. Some of the Su-57's best features are its 7,500 kilogram payload capacity, with 10 internal and 6 external holders for missiles and bombs, and its 3D thrust vectoring engines, which make it formidable in dogfights. There are some other clever features built into the Su-57. One of them is a laser defense turret capable of blinding incoming infrared-guided missiles that makes it particularly effective while defending against short-range munitions like the AIM-9 Sidewinder. The Su-57 does have a major weakness, however: its relative lack of stealth. Some experts do not even consider it a true stealth aircraft. Most of its stealthy features are concentrated at the front, while the flanks and rear are vulnerable. Although the Felon is a big improvement compared to Russia's previous aircraft, with a radar cross-section of supposedly 0.1 square meters, it can reportedly be detected up to a range of 35 miles, which still falls far short of American standards. The F-22 Raptor, by contrast, is supposedly detectable only at a range of 10 miles. Meanwhile, the Su-57's other competitor, the F-35, has the cross-section of a metal golf ball and is only detectable at even closer range. The F-35 has a top speed of Mach 1.6, a service ceiling of 50,000 feet, and a climb rate of 45,000 feet per minute. The F-22, meanwhile, has a top speed of Mach 2.25 and can reach supersonic velocity without using its afterburners. It has a climb rate of 62,000 feet per minute and a service ceiling of about 60,000 feet. Like the Su-57, its twin Pratt & Whitney F119 PW100 engines are capable of thrust vectoring. Two things matter the most to modern air battles: range and stealth. The plane that can shoot down its target from beyond visual range before being detected will have an overwhelming advantage in an aerial confrontation. These are precisely the areas where the F-35 excels, and it will excel further once it gets its new radar, the AN/APG-85. The F-22, with its AN/APG-77 radar, also has a high situational awareness, with a 360-degree view, and TR modules, which enable 270-degree coverage around the Raptor. The Su-57 has an advanced AESA radar of its own, the N036 Bielka. This radar's X and L band capabilities allow for improved situational awareness and electronic warfare measures and countermeasures. The radar can reportedly detect targets of 11 square feet from 250 miles away, and it's spread across the Su-57's body to increase the plane's situational awareness. However, this radar is unlikely to match the F-35's flying supercomputer attributes. The current AN/APG-81 radar on the F-35 likely has at least 50 miles on it, and the new radar will have an even greater range once it's installed. One-on-one, the F-35 will likely be able to detect and shoot down the Su-57 first, especially once it gets its AIM-260 JATM. The F-22 will be able to do the same. The F-22 and F-35 working in concert make for an even more formidable pair, as the F-35's sensor fusion abilities make the F-22 better able to complete its missions. The F-22 will be well conditioned to detect and shoot down the Su-57 from long range, especially with the added help. In a dogfight, the Su-57 would have a significant advantage over the F-35 thanks to its superior speed, maneuverability, ceiling, and climbing rate. The F-35 was not a plane built for such close combat. The F-22, on the other hand, was. In a dogfight, much would depend on the training of the two pilots, although in this area the default advantage likely goes to the American pilot. American pilots get over 200 hours of flight time per year, while their Russian counterparts get between 130 and 180. With this in mind, we can look at the design differences between the two planes. Both emphasize maneuverability, but the Su-57 also emphasizes speed. One aviation expert, Piotr Batowski, has claimed that the Russian plane has much more maneuverability at supersonic speeds than any previous fighter. The Su-57's infrared search and track systems also provides a significant advantage. The Su-57 can also carry more weapons than the F-22, with 12 hardpoints against the latter's 8. However, the F-22 has a higher turn rate than the Su-57. Although it has 2D rather than 3D thrust vectoring, its nozzles give it the power to turn more narrowly, which is the most important factor in a dogfight. So while the F-22 would prefer to stay at long range and shoot the Su-57 down before the Russian plane can detect it, it can more than hold its own in a dogfight, even though the odds for the Russian plane would be far more even at that range. The battle for supremacy in the skies did not take place solely in that domain, however. Ground-based air defense systems play critical roles. The United States and Russia both have a series of sophisticated air defense systems. Two of the more famous ones are the American Patriot and the Russian S-400. The Patriot had its beginnings in the 1960s and entered service in the early 1980s. It still serves as the US Army's main defense against incoming ballistic missiles, with additional upgrades to its missile and radar systems making it adaptable to a changing battle environment. In 2023, the Patriot made headlines by shooting down one of Russia's hypersonic Kinzhal missiles targeting Kyiv, revealing its staying power as a defense system. A Patriot battery consists of a command post, 8 launchers and support vehicles. One battery can support up to 16 launchers if need be. To establish a strong defensive network, batteries are located between 18 and 25 miles from each other. 4 missiles are typically carried per container. The current Patriot uses 2 types of missiles, the PAC-2 and the PAC-3. The PAC-2 had its origins in the 1990s and improved on the original PAC-1 missile that had shown a few shortcomings in the Gulf War. The PAC-2 missile follows the Patriot battery's AN/MPQ-53 phased array radar system to carefully track its target. Once guided near the target, the PAC-2 passively tracks it and then detonates. The PAC-2 has a range of about 100 miles and a maximum altitude of 15.5. The PAC-3 is a smaller missile and weighs only 2/3 as much as the PAC-2. Because of its compact size, a single Patriot launcher can carry 16 of them rather than 4. The PAC-3 is not designed to detonate at a distance away from an incoming projectile, but rather impact it directly. The PAC-3 therefore has a set of 180 solid-fueled altitude-controlled monitors in its forward section to give it better maneuverability in flight. It also has a Ka-band radar seeker to guide it toward its target in the final phases. Because of its lighter weight and superior propulsion system, the PAC-3 can defend an area 7 times greater than the PAC-2. The Patriot's radars currently do not have 360-degree coverage, but a new radar in development called the Lower Tier Air and Missile Defense System will give it this upgrade. The new system will be an AESA radar with gallium nitride power amplifiers. Such amplifiers will improve the Patriot's resistance to enemy electronic warfare attacks and provide greater situational awareness. Testing of the system began in May 2022, and the initial delivery of the new radar system was slated for December 2023, but the Army was having some difficulties that made experts doubt whether that date would be met. Contrasting with the Patriot is Russia's S-400 Triumf. The system saw its genesis in the 1990s and became operational in 2007. The S-400 uses 3 different types of missiles. The first is the 48N6, which has a range of about 155 miles and can intercept incoming ballistic missiles at a radius of about 40. The second is the 77N6, which directly impacts its target like the PAC-3. These missiles are specifically designed to destroy the warhead of an incoming ballistic missile. In a nuclear scenario, this would limit radioactive fallout by avoiding a detonation. Finally, there is the 40N6. This is a longer-range missile that can extend outward to about 250 miles, although its deployment status is unclear according to the Center for Strategic and International Studies. There are also doubts as to whether the S-400's radar system is capable of making use of the 40N6's range. The S-400 has been a popular export item. China and India have both purchased it. Turkey has also used the S-400, which has proven to be an item of diplomatic tension between it and some of its NATO allies like the United States. However, the S-400 has not performed as well as the Russians would have hoped for during the war. In September 2023, Ukrainian forces successfully attacked an S-400 system deep into Crimea with a weapon they claimed was a new, completely modern missile of domestic manufacture. The S-400 is also an expensive system, with a price tag of over $600 million per unit. Ukraine's S-360 Neptune subsonic cruise missile, the same arm responsible for destroying the cruiser Moskva and which was suspected of being involved in the attack, is much cheaper. The S-400 in Crimea should have been under the protection of the KBP Tula Pantsir S-12 SA-22 short-range air defense SHORAD program. The SHORAD system should have been data-linked to the battery's main radar system. Unfortunately for the S-400, it and its Pantsir radar failed to detect the incoming Ukrainian projectile, while the SHORAD system proved unable to shoot it down. Ukraine has had no such problems with its Patriot batteries. Beneath the waves, Russia's latest submarine is the Belgorod, the so-called Doomsday Sub. This is the largest submarine in the world, with a length of 603.6 feet and a width of nearly 60. It displaces 14,700 tons on the surface and 24,000 tons when underwater. It can dive to a depth of over 1,700 feet. Thanks to it being nuclear-powered, it can stay at sea for months. While the Belgorod is a multi-purpose vessel that's supposed to be able to hold midget submarines and other vehicles capable of conducting intelligence and surveillance, although it has shown difficulties doing so, its major function is to serve as the launch platform for the Poseidon nuclear-armed drone torpedo. The Poseidon torpedo's supposed purpose is to detonate in coastal waters and inundate nearby communities with radioactive tsunamis. Unfortunately for the Russian vessel, most of these claims, if not all of them, are hype. While the Poseidon likely poses a dangerous yield between 1 and 2 megatons, which would do significant damage to coastal areas, it would need to get close to concentrate its radioactive material into the target area. This poses a problem because the Poseidon's advertised speed of over 100 knots would make it easy to detect, especially in the shallower waters near coastal areas. The Poseidon torpedo would also produce a significant amount of waste heat because it's not large enough to host mitigation mechanisms if it's nuclear-powered as the Russians claim. Perhaps it should be unsurprising that all tests of the Poseidon torpedo appear to have been unsuccessful. America has a better track record in special-purpose underwater warfare. One of the United States Navy's best submarines is the USS Jimmy Carter, named after the 39th president, who was the only one with submarine service. The submarine is the final vessel in the Seawolf class and entered service in 2005. Unlike the Belgorod, the Jimmy Carter is not a nuclear-armed submarine, but is a conventional attack submarine. It is larger than the other 2 vessels in its class, with a length of about 453 feet. It can dive to a depth of about 1,600 feet and displaces 12,130 tons while surfaced and 9,137 while submerged. What makes it an interesting comparison with the Belgorod is that it's been modified to carry out special missions. intelligence and surveillance missions are among the things we know about its highly secret deployments. As such, the Jimmy Carter has special thrusters in its fore and aft to keep it stationary if need be. It also has an added hull extension called the multi-mission platform that extended its length to the current 453 feet. The platform enables the Jimmy Carter to host and launch remote-controlled vehicles, special operations craft, and other means to carry out what the Navy calls enhanced warfighting capabilities. Although the Navy naturally keeps the Jimmy Carter's missions highly secret, one of its purported abilities is to tap undersea cables and communication lines. For its armament, the Jimmy Carter carries 8 660mm torpedo tubes, can lay mines, and can launch Tomahawk cruise missiles and Harpoon anti-ship missiles. The Jimmy Carter can hold up to 50 weapons in its torpedo room. Given that the Belgorod remains mostly theoretical, while the Jimmy Carter has proven itself, one can only bet on the latter if one needed to choose between the two. Russian weapons are capable, if not quite as capable as the Kremlin claims. Production difficulties and overhyping remain constant features in the Russian military. In contrast, the United States is mostly silent about its latest and greatest capabilities. Perhaps that silence speaks the loudest. What other weapon systems do you think are worth comparing between the United States and Russia? Don't forget to let us know in the comments. Now go check out why all Russian weapons are a failure, or click this other video instead. Also make sure to hit the like button and subscribe for more military analysis from military experts.